Welcome to Keep What You Earn, your judgment and jargon-free zone for entrepreneurs of all levels. Get ready to learn how to scale your business, save money in taxes, and create a business that grows your wealth. If it feels like the financial side of business is like eating your vegetables, well, then think of this podcast as the ranch dressing to make the process a little more enjoyable. My name is Shannon Weinstein. I'm a CPA and business owner on a mission to simplify money and empower others through knowledge. I hope this episode inspires you to take action, but remember that the information we share is for educational purposes only and is not individual tax advice. Now that we got that out of the way, let's start the show. Hey, welcome back to the show. So you're joining us during a series we're doing right now where we are replaying some of the top guest episodes from 2024 as a big thank you to you and to our guests for being epic and listening to our show all year round. I wanted to share with you some of the most popular guest episodes that you may not have heard yet. So let's dive in and get to our next guest episode. It's strangely ironic how much professionals that are in areas of expertise like lawyers, accountants, bookkeepers, finance pros, a lot of us struggle with how to actually sell ourselves and to implement that credibility in the form of our value. And if you're anyone who is selling a service or selling your expertise, this is 100% for you. Today, we're going to unpack on the show different sales strategies and mindset shifts that you'll have to make in order to thrive if you want to go into practice for yourself. Now, my guest today is Ro Shah. She's helped over 100 money coaches, bookkeepers, and accountants make their first sale and grow their businesses by learning sales strategies to book out. As an agency owner who's managed over 10 people on a team at a time, she understands the value of growing fast and keeping your sanity at the same time, which is really hard if you've ever worked in some of these professions before. And she's the host of the industry-leading podcast for women of color in finance to empower them to create five-figure months in their business. I'm so excited to welcome Ro to the show today. She actually has a background in engineering and sales systems, which is so helpful because she's able to unpack the process to follow to really get much better at sales, but also to discover the mindset shifts that are probably going to unlock the next step for you in your business. So without further ado, let's chat with Ro. Hey, Ro, welcome to Keep What You Earn.
Thank you. So glad to be here.
I'm so glad to have you. We're going to have such a fun conversation. We just started talking before and I was like, oh my God, I have to hit record because I don't want to miss anything that we're going to talk about. Could you just let everyone know who you are and what you do?
Yeah, of course. Hi, my name is Ro Shah. I am a sales coach for women in finance. So I teach all things sales and systems to change the face of the financial industry. Yeah.
And how did you become so passionate about helping women, specifically women in finance and specifically on sales?
Yes, great question. So my background is I come from a family of financial experts. Everyone I know is either in the banking industry, they're accountants. Before my parents immigrated here, they were also financial experts there. And when I came, basically, when I started working corporate out after university, I just noticed that one, no one looked like me. And two, it was all men in the industry. And the women in my family are extremely financially literate. And I was just like, where are all the people? And then when I started looking at the media, I grew up watching CNBC, MSNBC, all the channels, and I only saw men doing like the interviews. And I was like, why are there no women at the top of the industry? So I was like, something has to change. And my background is actually in software engineering and systems engineering. And I was like, this is great. I have the skills of being great at tech, but the sales piece, I realized I was in so many rooms where we were talking with a lot of people that were trying to up their sales with tech. And I was just like, none of these people are women. They're all men in finance. So I was like, something has to change in the industry. The industry needs to look more like me, look more like, the global population. Yeah.
Totally agree. And helping women in finance to be better at sales. Where did that come from? Where did you see a need to dig into the subject of sales with them?
Yes, it's really ironic. I know we were laughing a little bit about this before we even started, but I just noticed across the board that when I see women in the financial industry, be it your accountants, your bookkeepers, your money coaches, your CFOs, anyone who works in finance, I noticed this personality of being extremely credible and have an amazing reputation, drop dead smart, amazing women, but they're missing the biggest wealth building skill of sales, right? Like all these women in finance are geniuses, but they don't believe that they can sell or they don't have the skill. So you have this container of just like really incredible talent, but they don't know how to push outside the mold to, be on CNBC or be in bigger channels that help advocate and change the face of the industry.
Yeah. Have you heard of this? Now, I don't know if this is from a book or from something else. Forgive me, guys. But I heard Layla Hormozy talking about this, and it was like unconscious competence. It's like this level you want to get to where and what you're describing to me resonates with the unconscious competence. It's the idea that you are competent and that you are fully capable, but you are not really aware of where you stand in terms of commanding people's respect and value, where you're really not aware of how people perceive you, and therefore you're probably undervaluing yourself.
I yes, and I absolutely love Layla's content, but you're 100% right. There's this almost imposter syndrome where women
Yeah.
don't think that they're good enough to even sell a high ticket service. And I'm talking about, when I say high ticket, I mean at least four figures. They are underchanging themselves, and you see this happen so quickly when they move out of their 9 to 5 into entrepreneurship. They're already underpaid from their nine to five. That's why they went into entrepreneurship. But now that mindset really affects them. I see a lot of women in finance go out of business really quickly because they don't understand the skill of selling. They don't understand, how competent they are and how that should reflect in their pricing of their investments. Yeah.
Yeah, one other thing that I know that we struggle with, I say we because I'm in this community, is assigning our value to time. We bill hourly in our careers. We assume. I know you're shaking your head. She's like, no, like she's a walking emoji right now. Ro is going like, no, please. But it's true. We assign value based on our effort, input, and our time. And it's so hard. I personally, it is so hard to shake that because you feel like you're only worth what you can do,
Mm.
not what you can provide in terms of results, right? So let's talk about that and the struggle that these women have and how they can potentially break out of that mindset.
Yeah. I always say like the most important thing with sales is being able to, one, like triple your sales calls and really 10x your lead generation. And going back to what you're saying, how you are really able to do that is really making sure that you're not nickel and diming yourself. You're really able to make sure that you're not billing hourly, because you know this, right? Giving someone financial advice or as a CPA, like looking at the numbers, you see things that your client may not be seeing, and it can be life changing for them, right? It might not make $1 million tomorrow, but the advice or like the advisory services that you're giving them is eventually going to help them create $1 million business. So I think when you're looking at nickel and diming yourself, it's very short term thinking of like, my client's not seeing a result right now, today, this hour, but you have to really look at your client relationship over the next 3 to 5 years, right? How are they going to grow as an entrepreneur because of your expertise in the financial industry? A lot of women don't see that long term projection. They're like really focusing on like, how can I get them their return on investment in like 30 days? Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's this heart of service that overtakes that they don't associate sales with service. And the fact that they're looking at sales as well, like this is asking for something from someone. They're asking them to invest in me or sacrifice something to invest in me. What's your reaction to that?
Yeah, it's truly like a mindset issue there. Like, and I coach a lot on this on sales mindset, is that you're not begging anyone to work with you as a CPA or money coach or, whatever you do. You are an expert. Like, you deserve the value and being able to charge high ticket. And when you start charging less, starting to charge very low, and you'll have razor thin profit margins, not only will you be resentful long term, your clients will be resentful, and it's just like a domino effect in your business. And
Yeah.
it's just harder to grow that way.
Totally agree. And I think everyone would agree with you in that statement, but I think a lot of people are unaware that they are nickel and diming themselves. How would you, when you say the razor thin profit margins, first of all, let's talk about how awareness of that and awareness of what your margins actually are feed into the sales mindset and the sales approach that you coach on.
It's again, it's so ironic because women in finance are all about the numbers. They like talk to their clients about numbers, but when they're looking at their own value add and what they're charging, sometimes the amount of hours a CPA works during tax season is less than minimum wage. Like when you really think about all the numbers, all the sleepless nights. And I agree with you. A lot of people are unaware of what they're doing is not going to help them long term. And I think being in a room of other women in finance is a big game changer. That's what I have for all my clients. I really make sure my clients come together in a room so that I can give them strategy all day. But hearing another woman who is also doing what they're doing is like, oh, she's not charging like $100 per month for their bookkeeping service. I can charge more. Just seeing is believing sometimes, especially when you're less than 5 years into business.
Yeah, and I also think that seeing somebody like you accomplish it, to your point earlier about like seeing people like you in the media, seeing people like you talking about these topics, I think it becomes more tangible when, especially accountants, because you've worked with us before.
Yeah.
We are some stubborn people.
Yeah.
And we are, here's the thing with accountants,
Yep.
we don't really believe anyone who isn't one of us that will tell us how our life is. Cause we're like, you don't even know. Like, you don't even know what it's like. You don't know. It's almost like we all pledged a fraternity or sorority together and we all just know our own stuff.
Mhm.
And we tend to listen to each other a lot more because it's like, oh, well, she understands my experience. Like she knows, like she's been in the trenches of 70-hour work weeks just like me. And if she can do it, so can I, because it kind of helps us shed our excuses, right?
Yes, and that's it's a very like slippery slope there because just because you're talking to another CPA that works 70 hours doesn't mean they're enjoying their life or that they have a great business model. It just
Right.
means they're suffering like you and you're just following down the same path, right? I
Right.
and you're so right. I mean, my father, he's a CPA, and before he immigrated, and I know the personality. You need to have the hard facts, you need to have the evidence to really change anyone in the financial industry's mind. And you need to come ready. That's why I say when you focus on sales, you really need to, one, not kind of commiserate with your colleagues, but find a way out. And the
Hmm.
best way to do that is to find someone that's not in the trenches with you, but is seeing the bigger vision that you want. A lot of CPAs want to get out of the industry too, and they don't even know the first step. But they're looking at other
Yeah.
CPAs to be like, oh, what are you doing? What is she doing? But they're in the same situation.
Oh, I encounter this all the time because people say, like, you run a fractional CFO business. What's that all about? Like, you were an auditor before. How did you make that transition? Like I somehow jumped into circus clown as my job title. It was like it was such a leap to them to just it's even in the same industry. I'm like, I'm still a CPA,
Mhm.
but it's outside of our realm to go outside of like our core job description. It's almost like we have a name tag burned into our chest as to what our title is all the time because we have this license or because we have this credential. And this goes for, by the way, more guys, what Ro's talking about, more than just accountants, more than just financial professionals. You got lawyers, financial planners, you've got brokers, you've got all these other realtors, anyone who is I say it's dealing in the currency of trust
Yes.
as an expert. Anybody this applies to. So we're talking about accountants because, again, I'm one of y'all, but
Yeah.
for sure, this is definitely a struggle to step out of that mindset.
And I see it really happen. Like to your point with lawyers, with, people in really high stress industries, they're in the trenches of their business all the time. So they're not really
Yep.
thinking of the next step or the next business model. And that's why I see a lot of people leave the industry too, or completely quit their businesses because they haven't mastered the skill of actually learning how to sell. And then it just feels like a hopeless environment. It's like, okay, how long can I really work 70-hour weeks? I can't do this for another 5 years, but they're not planning ahead. That's
Exactly. Exactly. So when it comes down to actual sales coaching, right? What are some of the biggest struggles that your clients have encountered when it comes to actually putting pen to paper, putting their money where their mouth is, vice versa? I don't know. But how does it actually relate to the tangible stuff? Where do they struggle the most?
Yes, you hit upon it earlier, but also the unawareness of like even where to
Mhm.
start. And this is going to hurt a lot of people's feelings, but your ego getting in the way. I think a lot of times people quit their 9 to 5, or they think they're going to open up an Instagram account or a Facebook account, and suddenly people are going to pour in. They're going to wait outside, wait out the door. There's going to be a line, and then the most heartbreaking thing is people are very discouraged because there's no one waiting for them. There's no one that like suddenly starts knocking on their door ready to pay them when some people do, but for the majority of what I see, a lot of newer entrepreneurs just have unmet expectations when they're starting their business. And the biggest burnout comes after the first like 90 days when they see no sales, they see no traction. And the biggest issue is because they were just waiting. A lot of what
Yeah.
I teach is proactive pursuit, which is being proactive in getting your own sales, especially when you're newer in business or you're newer in your career. You have to put yourself in situations where it's easy to find your ideal client. And I don't mean like post pandemic, it's different. Being online is so important. You don't have to be out in the mall scouring for, leads. You can just be on social media. And that's a really quick way for you to live that laptop lifestyle, have that financial freedom that everyone wants, but using the power of like the platforms that are available to you. And I don't mean content. It just means like truly connecting with other people.
Well, and the right people in the right places. I feel like people spread themselves too thin and they're fishing in the wrong pond and then wondering why they're still hungry.
Yes, and just to speak to that, I noticed for anyone that's watching this or hearing this and they're struggling with sales, I would really urge you to think like if your ideal client is a 9 to 5 or if they're an entrepreneur. I see a lot of people stay in the wrong pond for a long time. Are you a business that's helping other businesses? Or are you a business helping consumers? And the entrepreneurs that I see struggle the most are the ones that help 9 to 5ers because they're usually in the wrong pool. They think they can be on Instagram all day, and 9 to 5ers just aren't on Instagram the way that entrepreneurs are. Yeah. So it's really identifying what kind of client you have and what's the right social media platform for them.
Yeah. And do you coach on a sales process too? Like how to approach, sales conversations? Talk to me a little bit about what you help your clients with, like where it starts and stops.
Absolutely. So one of the most important pieces is actually lead generation. I tell all my clients 95% of your time should be focused on lead generation and 5% is really content on social media platforms. The process is one, identifying the right type of client. And also, you probably hear every entrepreneur saying this is really understand your niche. And I'm going to say something that's controversial. I hear a lot of people trying to niche down with someone that's profitable. So I see a lot of people, newer entrepreneurs trying to niche down with high income individuals like doctors or lawyers, but they have no connection to that industry and it feels inauthentic from a mile away. So part of the sales process is one, finding a niche that you actually relate to on some level, and then being in the right social media platforms to actually connect with them, have conversations with them.
Yeah. And we always say, I'm in Brown Brothers group with Rory Vaden. And one of my favorite quotes from him is, you are uniquely positioned to serve the person you once were.
Yes.
You are most uniquely positioned to serve a person you once were. And if you've been in an industry before or been exposed to or have family or you have some type of connection to that industry, you're going to do so much better. It's not even about the profitability of the industry. I say it's the proximity.
I agree like 1,000% on that. You need to have either personal lived experience with the people that you want to work with, or you need to know what you're talking about because people can understand that if people in high income industries, they already are very likely to get scammed and have a lot of people target them. It's going to be even harder for you to break in the doors if you have no story that's relevant to them. So I definitely agree.
Yeah, that's always been the case for me. I actually used to work in sales, funny enough, for a company. It was a SaaS company, and we sold to accountants.
Yeah.
And I was uniquely positioned in that. I was actually pulled into sales, Row. I didn't never told you this. I was pulled into sales because they were like, Shannon's just telling stories to the potential clients and they're buying
Yeah.
because she has the use cases of like, oh, yeah, let me tell you about a client that did this one time. And they're like, oh my God, yeah, been there, done that. And like all the sales guys around me are like, we don't understand any of these inside jokes. Like, what is she talking about?
Yeah.
And they just related to me on another level. And they were like, look, if Shannon believes it'll work, then we're in. And they all kind of looked at each other and said, you need to join the sales team because you're selling more than we are.
It's a built-in trust like that
Yeah.
basically only experience can have. Like there's no way I would be working in the financial industry if I didn't work in the city. sorry, the city, meaning New York City. I just live in New Jersey. And that's what everyone calls it. Or
Yeah.
coming from a family of, stubborn financial experts that were that were very hard set in their ways. And that has helped me relate to women in finance because I literally grew up with that kind of personality every single day. And
Yeah.
I've just seen so many amazing women in finance that haven't reached their potential or, their financial potential either because they're just underselling themselves or they don't have the skill set.
Totally agree. Do you help folks who are primarily in their own businesses, off on their own in practice, or are you helping folks who are employees who just want to do a better job of generating new business, or a bit of both? Like, who's the primary candidate for you?
That's really interesting. I mainly work with entrepreneurs that have already been in business or they're just trying to get their business off the ground. That's why I brought up ego because a lot of people in finance think that they can just sell themselves without knowing the skill sets. So they'll be a year or two in their business with like less than $10,000 in revenue. And they're like, all right, I need help or I'm going to quit. And that's usually the people who come to me. And also the ones that are really scaling past six figures. I noticed two types of clients, the ones that are just starting under $50,000 and the ones that are like, okay, I'm ready to really build out my agency, my bookkeeping agency, I'm ready to get out of CPA work and focus on CFO work. And or even those that are finally ready to take their image public. So, getting on more of those national broadcasts like CNBC, like finally get out of the the service industry and more go for like national brand sponsorship. Yeah. So those are mainly the types of business owners that I work with.
Gotcha. Yeah, I find that one thing that a lot of people struggle with when they go off on their own for the first time, because you brought this up. Like, they go off, they have a high paying job. This happened to me, guys. This is literally an autobiography for a sec on that. Is you work at a big four firm
Yeah.
and then you leave and you go, I'm gonna start my own business. And what do you offer? Happy Meals versus filet mignon. You offer the lowest ticket services and the easiest to deliver services. Why do we do that to ourselves?
Yeah. I that could be a whole other episode.
I know.
But I think it truly comes to why I started this business in the first place is there are no examples of I mean, the industry is definitely changing. Don't get me wrong. Like you used to look up Money Coach in 2015 and it was all men. It was like Dave Ramsey. Now you look it up and it's more women. But I just don't think there are examples that, people in the big four are borrowing from. Like they open up the not newspapers, no one reads the newspaper, but they open up their phones every day and they're just spouted with information that are from men that have different experiences from them. So I truly say that the industry needs to change because for women to really get paid what they deserve, they need more examples of what's possible. And that's the whole reason why I say sales is super important. It's the only skill you really need to create to keep building your business.
And let's talk about that too from a sales skill perspective. What are some of the things that somebody can do to truly improve their skills in and let me here tangent for a second. I was about to say the art of sales, and then I was about to say the science of sales. And I'm like, it's a little bit of both,
It,
but the art and science of sales. What can someone do to truly enhance their skills in it? Or is it just something where they go, well, I'm not a salesperson?
that was great. Thank you for saying that. I have heard that so many times. Like, I'm not a salesperson. I'm introverted. I'm not extroverted. I
Hmm.
can't go out and like be friendly to everyone, which I think is a common sentiment for a lot of people that go into business. They know they're credible, but they're scared of like actually getting out there and selling. In terms of tangible steps, the number one thing I would say is I remember when I was 18, I started my business when I was think I was having like a quarter life crisis at like 23. And I was like, I need to start something. But I read every financial book that you see in Barnes and Nobles. I read every single business book. And I wish I was talking to my sister as we were Christmas shopping. I wish someone would just take out those books and be like, hire someone, hire mentorship. Because I had probably 15 abandoned accounts, business accounts, before I really took off in my business. And sales, you could definitely DIY it, but it might take you 10 years. It definitely, from the age of 17 to 23, I was definitely trying to just learn it on my own. I was reading everything. But I think a lot of times, especially in society, no one tells you that you have to actually pay up. No one tells you have to invest in mentorship. And It's completely okay to spend like 100,000 in school, but no one tells you, okay, you need someone to actually get you to the other side of the bridge, show you how to make your first dollar if you outside of referrals, outside of someone just handing you your leads.
Oh, thank you for bringing up referrals
Yes, big
because,
one.
oh, this could be another whole episode. I have a fundamental belief I'm going to share with you about referrals that's very like I piss off a lot of people
Exciting.
with with this statement,
Yes.
which is probably why we're friends. But my statement is that, when you rely solely on referrals to drive your lead gen, you are outsourcing the choosing who your clients are completely. And I think that it's how people get trapped into working for their own firm instead of running it, because wasn't the whole point to pick your own clients? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you picked up on that. Yeah, I this common sentiment I tell all my clients is it's cool that you got referrals. Maybe that's how you built the first like 50 to six figures in your business, but that's not what's going to get you to seven figures. And similar to your sentiment, I am very strong in the belief that referrals keep you as a needy entrepreneur. You're constantly waiting for someone. You're constantly like, just sitting on your hands waiting for someone to come save your business. You never know when a referral is really going to come to you. Of course, you could have an affiliate program, but I truly believe that if you want to be the best entrepreneur you can be, you need to learn how to do independent lead generation. You need to know. I like giving this example. Imagine like you're getting all your water from one source, right? Like one well in your backyard, suddenly it dries up, aka your referrals. You're going to have to travel like a long time before you find another water source because all that time that you were just relying on one lead gen source, the well in your backyard, you could have started building up the infrastructure to really have your business be long lasting. And I see a lot of, and I'm not just talking about women in finance, but across the people I've met in entrepreneurship, it's just like they're cutting themselves off at the knees in terms of experience, skill set by just really relying on referrals. It's almost this false sense of security that they're a good entrepreneur just because they have X amount of clients, but none of those people came to you because of your marketing or your sales skills. And also, I'm curious your thoughts on this. Converting a referral in a sales call is very different than converting a cold lead that, you didn't have your best friend like whispering in their ear how great you are. They're very different types of skill sets.
Yes. And I will say this too, that number one, if you can use referrals to your advantage, if you train your clients on what referrals you want, because if you're willing to accept a call from any referral, we always have this little people pleasing tendency to be like, well, I got to do my friend a solid and like bring in this client. And it's like they don't really care. Number one. Number two is that like you really have to find who's aligned to you. And if it's not an aligned client, then you have to go give the feedback to the other person and say, hey, this is who I'm looking for if you know anybody, and actively say that. The other thing is, to your point, that yeah, it's a different close, but also because they're not using you, they're not exchanging your trust with them. It's your client, you're borrowing the trust of their relationship.
Mhm.
So you're leveraging their relationship to start this one, but it feels like a blind date your friends set up, as
Yep.
opposed to one where you actually matched each other and did the research and like read about each other. It's a little bit more of this cold feeling of like you have a lot to catch up on in that sales call. You cannot approach them the same way.
Mhm. And a lot of entrepreneurs are just capped at their income level. Like if they're still struggling to hit six figures or even multiple six figures, what's holding them back is that they're just all their sales are just relying on referrals. It's truly like a big gap in their sales skills, right? Because they're just not learning what they need to learn to keep growing
Mhm.
business. It's very
Yeah.
false sense of security.
It's this idea of like hunter gatherer type thing at the end of the day where I go, you have to be able to hunt if you want to eat. Like you have to know how to develop that skill. Like, yes, it's great if referrals come in the door, and I'm not knocking
Yeah.
referrals in general. But like if that's the main source, then you're really over reliant on something else driving the intake of your business, and it's not standing on sturdy ground.
I think
I think that you have to have your own marketing system as well.
yeah, 100%. I like the reference that you made to hunter gatherer because a lot of women, I think, hear that term and they're like, that's not me. I want to, just have clients trust me. I don't want to be sleazy. And I'm like, you're just sleazy. Yeah, like I hear you. It's like, I'm like, you're just sleazy. You're targeting people that you just think have money and have no experience with, right? That's why you're
Mm.
sleazy. If you really had experience with the niche or the ideal client that you're targeting, you wouldn't feel so messy, And it goes back to what I said. You can try to do it by yourself. Hell, I did for 6 years and I didn't get anywhere. Or you can, finally invest in some kind of mentorship, even if it's like a small group or anything to really kind of get your feet wet and like start moving in the right direction.
Perfect. So that's a perfect segue to ask you, how can someone get involved with you as a mentor or get connected to the folks in your network to learn more about actually working with you and developing these skills?
Yeah, great question. So we just rebranded. I'm super excited. You can definitely check me out on Instagram at the Ro Shah, TheRoShah. And the website is the same. But definitely check us out. We have so many examples of women of color and just women in general in finance that are killing it. They've made over six figures in sales at this point. And you could hear me talk all day about on this podcast, but seeing other women that look like you and just seeing examples on that website and on my Instagram is going to be a big game changer. It's very inspirational.
Absolutely love it. Guys, check out Ro on Instagram, the Ro Shah. She'll be tagged in all our content today. Make sure you check her out. And if you took away something from this episode, which I know you did, come on. Who didn't take away something, if a sound bite or anything from this episode? If you did, post it on social media, tag both of us. Let us know what you're learning, what you're hearing about, and what you want to share with your audience because, hey, it's our duty to share more of what we're learning with others. That's how we spread the word. So, Ro, thank you so much for joining me today.
Of course. Thank you so much.
One of the fastest ways that digital business owners lose cash is not having a clean tech stack. And by that, I mean individual costs for email marketing platforms, CRM, community page, course creation platform, website designers, and all these things do add up. And it can be super hard to run a profitable business using all of these different systems. That's why I love Kajabi. Kajabi is your all-in-one solution that manages your business throughout the customer journey. From lead generation to taking payment and sending onboarding emails, we use Kajabi for everything. And you can try Kajabi for 14 days free by heading to trykajabifree.com or click the link below in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and review on your podcast platform. This small action goes a long way for podcasters to get our message heard by more business owners just like you. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to information about our guests and ways to get in touch with me. We'll see you on the next episode.